The Real Footage Show. Tim Davis. Season's greetings from us to you. Tim DTV.
Hello and welcome back to the Real Footage Show. I'm Tim Davis. In our special holiday edition, we are going to be talking about decades of television holiday specials and more. And I also like to welcome on camera with me my sister Cindy. Hello, Cindy.
Hello.
Welcome to the show. And today we're going to be featuring decades of holiday specials throughout the golden age of television to modern television, beginning with the 1950s. Shows like I Love Lucy, The Honeymooners, The Donna Reed Show, and Alfred Hitchcock Presents were just some of the sample shows that were presented in the 1950s with holiday-themed programming. Beginning with I Love Lucy, the show is a classic, but the holiday Christmas special, which aired, was not shown for decades until networks brought it back, and later for more modern audiences colorized it. But while the show was colorized, the black and white segments still remained black and white.
That's true.
And they, something to do with the colorization of the episode, but now nowadays, other I Love Lucy episodes as well are being colorized, not only just the holiday episode. The Donna Reed Show is a classic holiday episode. Buster Keaton is in it, and he does some excellent physical comedy and routines within the show. Another thing, too, that stands out about the Donna Reed Show episode is the heartwarming sense you get from watching it. I mean, we both watched it over the years many, many times, and there's just something about the cast and the way that Golden Age television just beams across the screen when you're watching shows like that.
Well, that's true, especially the ending scenes, the last final scenes of the show, where all the Mary and Jeff Stone want to spend time at home with their family on Christmas Eve, and Donna would rather be at the hospital in the children's ward helping out, giving the children that are there the best Christmas that she can and bringing them presents. Mary and Jeff actually end up bringing their presents. And it's very interesting how at the end, Alex and Donna start to sing Silent Night, which is rare, especially for the Donna Reed Show, because although they've had songs and they've sang throughout the years in it, it's kind of rare. And it was just interesting to see and very heartwarming, like you said earlier.
Yes, very, very interesting. The whole concept of that show was it's better to give than to receive, and it's exactly what they did. Another thing, too, that seems very interesting about that show is the show was on for 8 years, but they only made one holiday episode, and it was in the very first season. I always found that strange, especially with shows with children in them. And the Donna Reed shows, there's many other shows that are like that, where they only have 1 or 2 holiday programs throughout an entire show's run. But the Donna Reed Show made one and only Christmas episode, but it was a very good one.
Yes.
And as we just mentioned, it's a must-see for fans who enjoy classic television such as that. The Honeymooners is another example of Golden Age television holiday program when the cast comes out to greet the audience and wish them a very Merry Christmas at the end of the show. Something that you usually would not expect on today's type of programming, but back then it was almost like a must that the cast come out and wish such stuff to the audience.
Yeah, I always enjoy when shows break character.
Yes.
It's nice to see that, and it's nice to just greet the audience and make them feel welcome.
And that's exactly what these shows did. And of course, throughout this video, we're only mentioning a sample of shows from each decade, but there's so much to cover. But to highlight specific points and specific programming from the golden days of television and beyond.
Tim DTV.
In between each of these segments, we're going to be presenting our personalized jam jingles for the holidays for you to enjoy. Now going into the 1960s, television still was carrying over most of its format from the 50s and the 60s. It still had a very classic golden age feel to it. Many shows in the 1960s celebrated the holiday season throughout their seasons, from variety shows to sitcoms to dramas. The 1960s, we've seen shows such as the Judy Garland Show, the Dick Van Dyke Show, and Green Acres.
Petticoat Junction was another popular Christmas episode. Beverly Hillbillies and Bewitched as well.
Now, in the 1960s and into the 1970s, variety shows were becoming very popular on television. So, of course, throughout the holiday season, those shows would then present Christmas specials with a very classic touch, like the Andy Williams Show, Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour, and the Carol Burnett Show.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Judy Garland Show, which aired in 1963, was its one and only holiday episode as well. But the set was designed as to look exactly like the home furnishings of Judy Garland at the time.
Yes.
Yes.
It was designed to mimic what her downstairs living room looked like, which is very interesting. I always enjoyed that.
If you haven't seen the show, or if you have, you'll know what we're talking about. The program is available on DVD and is also airing on occasion on various networks. But the show is your quintessential variety show where it features song, dance, and heartfelt moments that you cannot really capture much of today.
But although it's a variety show, it makes you feel at home just because Judy's children are involved in it as well.
Yes, her children are on the show, and there's also some surprise guest stars,
right,
like Mel Torme visits.
Jack Jones.
Some very classic icons of the industry at the time. The Dick Van Dyke Show is another program which has a very classic Christmas episode in the show's third season. It's a little bit different from its other episodes, but again, it's themed for the holidays. It is geared more towards the variety show aspect, where the entire Alan Brady Show staff and family members put on a Christmas show and features many of the cast singing songs throughout the 25 minutes on the air.
Yeah, it's interesting in that it's not your typical Dick Van Dyke Show episode that you're used to seeing, but it's a lot of fun too. There's a lot of funny moments in it. Larry Matthews actually sings in it, the little drummer boy, which is different because you don't really see Richie in them too often. And it's nice to hear him sing, and Rob and Laura do different skits together, and Buddy and Sally, and it's a lot of fun.
We also get to see the second presentation of the Toy Soldier routine,
yeah,
which is done at the final moments of the episode's conclusion, where Rob, Buddy, Sally, and Laura are all in toy soldiers outfits or costuming, and they all present a song which was done prior in an earlier season without the costuming. So it's interesting that they brought back that segment into a holiday episode years later, but just put costumes on them and made it a little bit different.
I always felt that it's more fitting for a holiday show anyway, that scene, or that performance.
The performance, yes. I've seen more of the holiday edition more than I have of the other. The other one is in an earlier season, but they're both interesting to watch. And again, it's classic comedy at its very best, especially for the holiday season.
Tim D TV.
As the decades go on and the times change, so does television as well. And in the 1970s, a lot of the programming for the holidays were starting to reflect upon that of what was going on in the world at the time, or other issues of the time as well. Shows like Little House on the Prairie, The Mary Tyler Moore Show, and The Bob Newhart Show, as well as
Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour, The Partridge Family is another one, and All in the Family as well.
Now, in the 50s and 60s, television was more of an innocent era, but in the 70s, shows with themes like Mary Richards on The Mary Tyler Moore Show, when she had to work the holidays instead of being home with family and friends, and The Bob Newhart Show, and even All in the Family, touching upon more serious and dramatic issues, but at the same time keeping some holiday cheer within the storylines as well, though.
Yeah, the one show that we mentioned that I can think of that actually kind of stays going back to maybe like the 50s, more like a family-style Christmas, would be Little House on the Prairie, where the family is everyone's deciding what to get for each other. The season 1 episode, Christmas at Plum Creek, and that's the one I can think of the 70s that we mentioned.
Very, very heartwarming episode of The Little House on the Prairie in its very first season, Christmas at Plum Creek in Walnut Grove. A very interesting and, again, heartwarming, heartfelt episode of a show that remained on the air for 9 seasons. Little House on the Prairie, throughout its 9-season run, though, only produced only a handful of holiday episodes, though.
That's true.
As with most other shows do, 1 or 2. The Bob Newhart Show, throughout its entire 6-year run on television, each episode or each season featured at least one holiday episode for Christmas, which was quite surprising. Not many shows feature a holiday episode every year, but that show did. And then in the 1970s, we also began to see shows like Kojak, detective-style programming, which began to add holiday episodes as well.
Very true.
And of course, now being in the 1970s, in the early and mid part of that decade, variety shows were extremely huge. You had the Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour, you had the Carol Burnett Show, you had the Flip Wilson Show, among others, that provided extremely big holiday moments for its fans.
Tim D TV.
Moving on into the 1980s, programs like Family Ties and Three's Company,
as well as MacGyver and the Facts of Life,
began to celebrate the holiday season, pointing out MacGyver, the show which aired in the late 1980s on network television, which was more about giving than receiving. If you've never seen the show or have seen it, it's an excellent program to celebrate that fact. Some things I enjoy about the MacGyver episode is, if you've seen MacGyver, it's always it's an adventurous type program.
It's more of like MacGyver in general is more of like a gritty show, where it's nice to see the Christmas episode in that it's more of like Christmas. Obviously, it's Christmassy, but it's more heartwarming.
Yes, very festive. It's a show that I seen years ago for the first time on television, but the first time I remember seeing it, I fell in love with the idea of it and the way it was presented, especially for an adventure show such as it. But the 1980s was now moving back, it seemed like, with the programming that was being featured. It was more getting back into the family realm of the programming.
But it had the modern twist still of the 80s at the time.
Yes, it was keeping the times and the fads that were going on in it relevant within each program.
The 1990s included holiday programs such as Roseanne, Beverly Hills 90210, as well as The Nanny.
And in the 2000s, we had shows such as The King of Queens, Reba, and Everybody Loves Raymond. Now, the 1990s programming, like Roseanne, for example, had many different holiday specials, not only with Christmas, but over the years, they also did numerous Halloween and Thanksgiving episodes as well. And the Beverly Hills 90210 holiday special, which we found out recently was extended.
Yes.
It's actually a 90-minute special, which was a joy to see the cast celebrating the holiday season as well. Now, over the years also, we've also had a wide variety of artists that put out numerous albums for the holidays, like Andy Williams and Judy Garland.
Perry Como, Nat King Cole.
Classic Christmas songs that everyone still loves to this day, dating back, some of them going back to the 40s and 50s, still very much enjoyable these days. And of course, the holiday specials for cartoons and for the movies.
Yes.
Cartoon classics.
Examples include Frosty the Snowman, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, as well as Santa Claus Coming to Town. The Charlie Brown Christmas, the special claymation features that everyone looks forward to every time of the year, and the holiday movie films that we all enjoy, like Miracle on 34th Street. The classic It's a Wonderful Life.
And going into the 1980s, Christmas Story, and in the early 1990s, Home Alone, which not only released one film, but many over the years.
Yes, classics.
So this has been a pleasure enjoying and talking to you about each of these holiday specials and shows for the Real Footage Show Holiday Edition. I'm Tim Davis.
And I'm Cindy Davis.
Thank you for joining us, and until next time, thank you for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Tim D TV.